Single rancher found two Apache sisters freezing in the snow. Now they both want to be his wives. Caleb Morgan had lived alone on the open plains for so many years that the land itself felt like his only constant companion. His ranch sat several miles away from the nearest town, nestled between long, rolling fields that turned golden in summer and white in winter. Most days were quiet, filled with chores that did not complain or argue, feeding the horses, checking fences, counting the cattle, and keeping the fire burning in the small cabin he had built with his own hands. Caleb did not mind the silence. It was the kind of silence that felt peaceful, like a blanket spread across the world. But the winter he was living through now was far colder, sharper, and heavier than anything he had seen before. The snow had started early that morning, soft at first like drifting feathers, then thickening into a curtain that made it almost impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. The air felt heavy, and the wind carried a low whistle, the kind that warned a man to stay inside. Caleb had woken before sunrise, as he always did. He warmed his hands by the fire, drank his coffee slowly, and stared at the frost forming on the inside of his window. Winter storms were common, but this one worried him. He knew the cattle, spread across the far end of his property, would be vulnerable in weather like this. He could not ignore them, not when a single night of cold could put them in danger. So he saddled his horse, pulled on his thick coat, wrapped a scarf over his mouth, and stepped outside into the icy world. Snowflakes landed on his eyelashes, clinging like tiny white stars. The sky was gray and heavy, and the wind brushed against his cheeks like cold needles. His hat brim collected snow as he rode, but he pushed forward, determined to make sure all his animals were safe. The ranch stretched wide, and the land felt endless. The world around him was quiet except for the soft crunch of snow under his horse's hooves. Caleb checked each fenced area one by one. The cattle huddled together for warmth, their breaths rising in small white clouds. He adjusted the gates, added extra feed, and made sure no animal was separated or missing. It was hard work in such deep snow, but Caleb did not complain. Taking care of the land and the animals was simply part of who he was. After finishing the last paddock, Caleb turned his horse toward the trail that led back to the cabin. The snow had grown deeper and thicker, swirling around him in wild patterns. He narrowed his eyes, trying to follow the faint path he had made earlier. The world felt almost blurry, as if the storm itself was shifting the land beneath the snow. The wind seemed to whisper something he couldn't quite understand. Then he noticed something unusual, a strange shape in the distance, just barely visible through the snow. At first he thought it might be a fallen tree limb or maybe a stray deer lying down. But the shape did not feel natural. It looked too still, too delicate, and too small to be an animal. Caleb slowed his horse and leaned forward, trying to see more clearly. The wind pushed the snow aside for a moment, and he caught a clearer glimpse. His heart gave a small jump. There were two shapes, not one, and they were human. Caleb felt a sudden rush of concern. Nobody should be out in a storm like this. He guided his horse carefully toward the faint shapes, each second making him more certain that something was very wrong. When he finally reached them, he almost could not believe what he saw. Two young women lay curled together in the snow, barely moving. Their dark hair was dusted with frost, their clothes heavy with clinging ice, and their faces pale from the cold. They looked like they had been struggling to walk before the storm overwhelmed them. Caleb's breath caught in his throat. He recognized signs that they belonged to the Apache tribe that lived not far from the ranching lands. He had seen members of the tribe before, trading goods, passing through town, or traveling between hunting grounds, but he had never seen anyone in a situation like this. He climbed down from his horse quickly, careful not to startle them. Kneeling beside them, he checked for signs of breathing. To his relief, both of their chests rose and fell, though the breaths were faint and shallow. Their skin felt icy even through their clothing, and their eyelashes were stiff with frost. They were alive, but they were in deep danger. Caleb knew that if he left them there even for a few more minutes, the cold could take away their remaining strength. He spoke softly, hoping they might hear his voice. "Can you hear me? I'm here to help." The older sister stirred slightly, her eyelids fluttering open just long enough to reveal dark, tired eyes. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. Caleb gave her a gentle nod, letting her know she didn't need to force herself to talk. The storm was growing worse. Snow whipped around him, making it difficult to even see his own horse. Caleb understood he did not have time to think. He needed to get them warm and fast. He wrapped his arms around the older sister first, lifting her carefully onto the horse. Then he returned for the younger one, who felt light in his arms, almost weightless from cold and exhaustion. He secured them both in front of him, steadying them against his chest so they could share his body heat. The ride back to the cabin felt twice as long as the ride out. Caleb kept one arm around the sisters, holding them gently but firmly so they would not slip. His horse trudged through the snow with steady determination, as if it understood the urgency of the situation. Caleb whispered calming words to the animal, grateful for its strength. When the cabin finally came into view, Caleb felt a wave of relief. Smoke curled from the chimney. He had left the fire burning before leaving, something he now thanked himself for. He dismounted quickly and carried the sisters inside one at a time. The moment he stepped through the door, the warmth of the cabin wrapped around them like a soft blanket. Inside, the fire glowed warmly, lighting up the small space with a golden hue. Caleb laid both sisters near the fire, making sure not to place them too close. He covered them with thick blankets and slowly warmed their hands. He knew enough about the cold to understand that warming a person too quickly could hurt them. So he worked carefully, rubbing their palms gently and giving them small sips of warm water when they were able to swallow. The younger sister seemed to recover faster, her eyes opening more fully. She looked around the room with confusion at first, then turned her gaze to Caleb. She did not speak, but her expression showed gratitude and a quiet trust. The older sister remained weak, but she too opened her eyes again and watched him with a calm, steady look. Caleb could tell she was trying to understand where she was and who he might be. He spoke softly, keeping his voice gentle. "You're safe here. I'll take care of you until you're well enough to travel again." The older sister closed her eyes briefly, as if giving a silent thank you. Caleb worked for hours, preparing warm broth, wrapping their feet in dry cloth, and checking their temperature often. He felt responsible for them, not only because he had found them, but because leaving anyone in such a state would go against every value he held. He did not know how they had ended up in the storm or how far they had traveled, but he could see they had been through much before he ever found them. The cabin filled with a gentle, quiet warmth as the hours passed. Eventually, the younger sister sat up fully, her strength returning enough for her to speak softly. Her words were gentle, her voice slightly shaky, but her gratitude was clear. "Thank you," she whispered. Caleb offered her a comforting smile. "You don't need to thank me. I'm just glad I found you in time." The older sister watched this exchange with softened eyes. Though she could not speak yet, her expression held the same thankfulness. Caleb felt a strange sense of connection forming, a feeling he had not experienced in a long time. He was a quiet man, often more comfortable with animals than with people. But he felt drawn to protect these sisters, not out of obligation but out of genuine care. As the storm continued to howl outside, the small cabin became a shelter not only from the cold but from fear and uncertainty. Caleb sat near the fire, making sure the flames stayed strong. The sisters rested behind him, wrapped in blankets, their breathing becoming steadier with each passing hour. Though none of them knew what the coming days would bring, one thing was clear. Fate had brought them together in the middle of a harsh winter, and their lives were no longer separate paths. Caleb did not know their names yet. He did not know their story or what dangers they had escaped, but he knew that kindness was a language both hearts and cultures could understand. In that warm, glowing cabin, where the firelight danced across the log walls, a bond had begun to form, one born from compassion, survival, and the simple truth that sometimes the world places people in our path for reasons we only discover later. The night continued, quiet and steady, as if giving all three of them a chance to rest. Caleb kept watch, checking on the sisters often, making sure the storm did not shake the windows too hard or dim the fire too low. He promised himself he would not let anything harm them, not now that he had found them. The world outside remained cold and unforgiving, but inside the cabin, warmth and hope began to grow, turning a simple act of rescue into the beginning of a story none of them could have imagined. The next morning came slowly, with soft gray light spreading across the sky and filtering into the small cabin. Caleb woke early, as he always did, but this time he was more alert, thinking of the two sisters resting near the fire. The storm had calmed during the night, and now the world outside lay quiet and white, like a fresh sheet of paper waiting for new footsteps. The air inside the cabin was warm, filled with the smell of burning wood and gentle comfort. Caleb stood from his chair quietly so he would not disturb the sisters. He stretched his arms, feeling the stiffness from the long night, and stepped over to check the fire. The logs glowed with a steady red warmth, and he added one more just to keep everything comfortable. When he turned around, he noticed that the younger sister was already awake, watching him with curious eyes. She looked much better than the day before. Color had returned to her cheeks, and her eyes were brighter, reflecting the warm light of the fire. She sat wrapped in a blanket, her hands tucked close beneath it, and though she still looked tired, there was comfort in her expression. Caleb offered a friendly smile. "You're awake early," he said gently. She nodded once. "The warmth helped," she whispered, her voice soft but more steady than the night before. Caleb nodded in understanding. "Good, you're safe here." She looked around the cabin slowly, studying the wooden walls, the shelves filled with simple supplies, the table where Caleb stored tools, and the small window where morning light peeked through. She seemed to be deciding if she could trust everything she saw. After a moment, her shoulders relaxed a little. "My sister?" she asked softly. Caleb turned to look at the older sister. She was still sleeping, her breathing soft and calm. "She's resting well," he said. "She just needs more time." The younger sister smiled faintly, relief washing across her face. "Thank you," she said again, this time with more strength. Caleb felt a warm feeling in his chest. He was glad to see them recovering. He stepped toward the small counter where he prepared food and began boiling water. He planned to make a simple breakfast, warm broth, soft bread, and maybe some dried fruit. He knew their bodies were still recovering, and gentle food was best. As he worked, he noticed the younger sister watching him quietly, almost studying every movement. She seemed fascinated by the way he handled things around the cabin, perhaps because it was different from the way her own people lived. Caleb respected that curiosity. Life on the land was different for every group. Ranchers, settlers, and tribes all had their own ways, their own rhythms, their own understanding of the world. After a few minutes, the older sister began to stir. Her eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the soft light. She blinked several times before focusing on Caleb and then on her younger sibling. Her face relaxed with relief when she realized they were still safe and warm. Caleb walked to her with a gentle expression. "Good morning. I'm glad to see you awake." The older sister tried to speak, but her throat was still dry. Instead, she nodded to express her gratitude. Caleb offered her a cup of warm water and helped her sit up slowly. She sipped the water carefully, and after a few moments, her voice returned in a soft whisper. "You helped us," she said, her voice filled with quiet sincerity. "I couldn't leave you out there," Caleb replied. "Anyone would have done the same." Both sisters exchanged a small look, one full of unspoken thoughts. Caleb did not know what that look meant, but he could tell it held deep meaning between the two of them. The younger sister finally said, "My name is Tala." "And mine is Naeli," the older sister added softly. Caleb nodded. "I'm Caleb Morgan, you can call me Caleb." Tala repeated his name quietly, as if testing it. Naeli gave a small, grateful nod. Caleb felt the tension in the room ease slightly now that names had been shared. Names had a way of making people feel more connected, more real. They ate breakfast slowly, warming their bodies from the inside. Tala enjoyed the broth, savoring each sip, while Naeli took smaller amounts but seemed thankful for every bit of warmth it offered. Caleb ate with them, sitting a respectful distance away so the sisters would not feel crowded. As the morning continued, the storm clouds cleared completely, revealing a bright blue sky outside the cabin window. Sunlight sparkled across the snow, making everything glow. Caleb stood by the window, watching the world slowly return to calm. "You both must have been traveling far," he said gently. Tala looked down at her hands. "We were with others, but the storm came too quickly. We became separated." Naeli nodded softly in agreement. "We tried to keep walking, but the snow became too deep." Caleb listened with careful attention. He felt no need to question them further. They had shared just enough for him to understand their situation. He knew the land well enough to understand how dangerous a sudden winter storm could be. Even strong, experienced travelers could become lost in such harsh weather. "You don't have to worry now," Caleb said. "You can stay here until you're strong enough to find your people again." Tala lifted her eyes, her expression gentle. "You are very kind." Caleb felt a faint warmth rise in his face. He wasn't used to compliments, especially not from strangers. "I'm just doing what's right," he said quietly. The sisters rested for most of the day, gaining strength. Tala grew more active, asking small questions about the cabin, the ranch, and Caleb's daily life. She seemed naturally curious, always observing things with a bright, thoughtful gaze. Naomi remained quieter, but her eyes followed everything as well, and her calm presence made the room feel peaceful. Caleb spent the afternoon checking things outside briefly, collecting firewood, brushing snow off the horse, and making sure the fences held firm. He did not stay out long. He didn't want to leave the sisters alone for too much time, not while they were still recovering. When he came back inside, he found Tala trying to stand and Naomi supporting her gently. "You shouldn't rush," Caleb said kindly, stepping forward. "Take your time." Tala gave a small, embarrassed smile. "I feel better. I don't want to sit all day." Caleb nodded in understanding. "Let's start slow. A few steps are fine, just don't push too hard." The sisters shared a small laugh between them. Even in their weakened state, their bond was clear, Tala with her spirited energy, Naomi with her quiet strength. Caleb admired that closeness. Later in the afternoon, Tala asked, "Do you live here with family?" Caleb shook his head gently. "No, it's just me." Tala seemed surprised. "All alone," Caleb smiled faintly. "The land keeps me busy. I don't have much time to feel lonely." Naomi watched him with careful eyes. "Still, it must be quiet." "Very quiet," Caleb agreed with a soft chuckle. "Though having company now is a nice change." Tala returned his smile. "We are grateful to be here. You helped us when you didn't have to." Caleb looked at the sisters thoughtfully. "Sometimes people cross our paths because they're meant to. I'm just glad I reached you in time." The cabin fell into a gentle silence again, the kind filled with warmth rather than emptiness. Outside, sunlight shifted across the snow, turning golden as the day moved toward evening. As night approached, Caleb prepared dinner, vegetable stew, warm bread, and heated water for tea. The sisters ate with appreciation, clearly feeling stronger. Tala even laughed softly at one point when Caleb gently teased her for trying to walk too soon. Naomi smiled, the kind of smile that came from deep inside, full of gratitude and trust. After dinner, the fire crackled softly, filling the cabin with its golden glow. Caleb sat in his chair, whittling a small piece of wood into a simple animal shape. Tala watched him with fascination. "You make things?" she asked. "Just small ones," Caleb replied. "It helps pass the time." Tala's eyes sparkled. "It's beautiful," Naomi nodded softly. "Your hands are gentle," she said quietly. Caleb looked down, slightly shy. "It's nothing special." But the sisters did not agree. They watched him with thoughtful eyes, seeing more in him than he realized. To them, the man who had rescued them was more than a rancher. He was kind, respectful, and patient, and those qualities shone brighter than any skill. As the evening deepened, the sisters prepared to sleep again near the fire. Caleb made sure they had fresh blankets and enough warmth. He stayed awake a little longer, listening to the soft breathing behind him and watching the firelight flicker. He thought about the sisters' journey, the storm that had nearly taken them, and the miracle of finding them in time. He wondered how far their people were, how soon they might come searching for them, and what the tribe might think of finding their daughters in a stranger's cabin. He hoped they would understand that he had only offered help and kindness. But for now, he pushed those thoughts aside. The most important thing was that the sisters were safe, warm, and healing. The cabin, once so quiet and lonely, now held gentle voices, soft laughter, and a sense of life he hadn't felt in years. As the fire dimmed and the night settled deep, Caleb closed his eyes with a quiet sense of peace. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he felt something inside him shift, something warm, something hopeful. And in the soft glow of the cabin, the bond between the rancher and the two sisters grew stronger, like a small light beginning to shine in the middle of a long winter. Days passed quietly in Caleb Morgan's little cabin, each day bringing a little more strength back to Naomi and Tala. The winter sun rose late and set early, casting long golden shadows across the fields. Inside the cabin, life moved slowly but warmly. The sisters spent their time resting, learning the layout of the small home and watching Caleb go through his daily routine. The more time they spent with him, the more they understood the quiet rhythm of his life. One morning, Tala sat near the window, wrapped in a thick blanket. She watched Caleb prepare the morning fire, humming softly as he arranged the logs. The crackle of burning wood filled the cabin with gentle sound. Naomi, still waking, sat up slowly and stretched her hands toward the warmth. Caleb smiled at them both. "You're looking stronger today," he said kindly. "Thanks to you," Tala replied with a soft grin. Naomi nodded. "We feel safe here. The storm has passed, and so has our fear." Caleb felt something warm settle in his chest at those words. He had not expected his quiet home to become a place of comfort for strangers, but he was glad it had. He set a pot of water on the fire and prepared breakfast. The peaceful atmosphere made the cabin feel more like a home shared by family rather than a place for one solitary rancher. After breakfast, Tala tried again to stand and walk around. This time she was steadier on her feet and Caleb allowed her to take more steps. Naomi watched quietly, keeping close in case her sister needed help. "You're improving fast," Caleb said. "Soon you'll be able to go outside." Tala's eyes brightened with excitement. "I want to see the land. It looks beautiful from the window." Caleb chuckled softly. "Snow can make everything look peaceful, but it can be tricky to walk in." Naomi studied Caleb with thoughtful eyes. She had watched him closely for days now, observing how patient he was with her sister, how carefully he moved around the cabin, and how gentle he was with everything he touched. Her respect for him grew quietly and steadily. Later in the morning, Caleb prepared to go outside for his daily chores. He put on his coat and glanced at the sisters. "I won't be far, just checking on the animals," he said. "Can we come someday?" Tala asked eagerly. "Maybe soon," Caleb replied with a warm smile. "When you're both strong enough." When he opened the door, a soft breeze of cold air swept in, carrying the crisp smell of snow. Tala and Naomi watched him disappear into the bright winter morning. His tall figure moved slowly toward the barns, leaving a trail of footprints behind. Inside the cabin, Tala turned to her sister. "He is kind," she said. "Very kind," Naomi nodded. "He is gentle and respectful." Tala leaned back in her blanket. "Do you think our people are nearby?" "Perhaps," Naomi answered. "But if they are looking for us, they will find us when the weather clears more." A soft silence settled between them before Tala spoke again, her voice full of quiet wonder. "I didn't expect a stranger to help us like this." "Not many would," Naomi agreed. "But he did." They sat quietly, each lost in her own thoughts. Meanwhile, outside, Caleb cleaned snow off the fences, checked the cattle for signs of stress, and fed the horses. The sky was bright, the kind of winter sky that made everything feel sharper and cleaner. Even though the land was covered in white, he felt a sense of warmth knowing the sisters were safe inside. When he returned to the cabin, he stamped snow from his boots and took off his coat. The cabin felt even warmer now by comparison, and the sisters greeted him with smiles. "You stayed out longer than usual," Tala said lightly. "There was more to do after the storm," Caleb replied. "But everything looks good." He noticed Tala holding a cup of warm tea. She looked comfortable, but he could see she was also restless, eager to do more now that she had regained some strength. That afternoon, Tala insisted on helping Caleb prepare vegetables for dinner. She sat at the table, using careful movements to chop softer foods. Caleb stood nearby, ready to assist if she felt tired. Naomi watched from her seat near the fire, smiling at her sister's excitement. "You don't have to work," Caleb told Tala gently. "You're still healing." "I want to help," she replied. "You have done so much for us." Caleb had no argument to that. He simply nodded and guided her patiently. Naomi observed the interaction with quiet appreciation. She admired Caleb's gentle manners. He never raised his voice, never hurried them, and never looked frustrated. She had met many people in her life, but Caleb's calm nature felt rare and special. As evening fell, they all sat near the fire. Snowflakes drifted quietly outside, but inside, warmth wrapped around them like a blanket. Caleb carved another small wooden animal while Tala talked about things she remembered before the storm. Small stories, little memories, moments of laughter she shared with her people. Sometimes Naomi added soft comments, but she mostly listened, her presence calm and thoughtful. At one point, Tala looked at Caleb and asked, "Do you ever feel lonely out here?" Caleb paused his carving and looked into the fire for a moment before answering. "Sometimes," he admitted. "The land is beautiful, but it's quiet, too quiet some days." Tala tilted her head. "And now that we are here," Caleb smiled gently, "it's different, better, I think. The cabin feels more alive." Naomi's eyes softened at his words. She watched him quietly, sensing the sincerity behind his simple statement. The next day, Tala felt strong enough to go outside with Caleb's help. Naomi joined them too, though she moved slowly to protect her recovering strength. The sun shone brightly on the snow, making it sparkle in countless tiny stars. The sisters looked around with wide eyes, amazed at how peaceful the land looked. "It's beautiful," Tala whispered. "It is," Naeli agreed softly. Caleb helped them walk carefully across the yard. His presence beside them made them feel steady and safe. Tala lightly touched the white snow with her fingertips and laughed softly at how cold it felt. Naeli breathed deeply, enjoying the fresh air. Caleb guided them to the fence so they could see the horses. The animals snorted gently, curious but calm. Tala's eyes lit up in delight, and Naeli watched with quiet admiration. "They seem gentle," Naeli said softly. "They are," Caleb replied. "I've raised them since they were small." The sisters exchanged a smile. They could see how much care Caleb put into everything he did, his animals, his land, his home. It spoke volumes about the kind of person he was. After a short walk, Caleb led them back inside to keep them from getting too cold. They settled by the fire again while Caleb prepared warm drinks. Tala talked cheerfully about the horses, while Naeli listened quietly, her calm eyes following Caleb as he moved around the cabin. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. A quiet sound echoed outside, the soft rhythm of distant footsteps on snow. Caleb turned his head sharply, listening. The sisters froze, exchanging a meaningful glance. "Someone is out there," Naeli whispered. Caleb moved to the window and looked outside. In the distance, he saw a small group of figures approaching slowly. They walked with purpose and familiarity, as if they belonged to this land just as much as the snow and wind did. Naeli's breath caught softly. "Our people," she whispered with relief. Tala's eyes filled with emotion. "They found us." Caleb stepped back from the window with a calm expression. "They're coming toward the cabin," he said gently. "Do you want me to step outside first?" Naeli stood slowly, her posture graceful. "Let us speak to them." "They will be worried." Tala nodded eagerly, though a little nervously too. Caleb opened the door and stepped aside, letting the sisters go first. The cold air rushed in, but he didn't notice. His attention was focused on the moment. The reunion he knew would mean everything to them. The approaching figures stopped when they saw the sisters. One of the older men stepped forward, his eyes filled with deep concern. Naeli walked forward and spoke gently in her native tongue, explaining what had happened. The man's shoulders relaxed slightly, relief spreading across his face. The rest of the group looked grateful and amazed to see both sisters safe and awake. Then the group turned their attention to Caleb. They looked at him with curiosity, some with caution. Caleb bowed his head respectfully and stood still, letting Naeli speak for him. She placed a gentle hand over her heart and gestured toward the cabin. Caleb could not understand the exact words, but he understood the meaning. She was explaining how he had helped them, how he had protected them, how he had saved their lives. The older man stepped closer and nodded at Caleb with deep appreciation. His expression held respect, not suspicion. Caleb nodded back gently, feeling a quiet sense of relief. The group stayed only briefly, promising to return soon to discuss the next steps. They did not want to remove the sisters yet, not while they were still healing. They trusted the shelter Caleb had given them. After the group left, the sisters returned inside the cabin. The moment was emotional, filling the air with a mix of relief, gratitude, and quiet thoughts. "You spoke well," Caleb said kindly to Naeli. She looked at him with soft eyes. "It was easy to speak truth. You saved us, you cared for us, our people will never forget your kindness." Tala nodded firmly. "Never." Caleb felt a warm feeling spread through him, humble, grateful, and deeply touched. The sisters looked at him with expressions he could not fully explain. There was admiration in their eyes, a gentle closeness that had grown quietly over the days they spent together. They were no longer just strangers who needed help. They had become something more, something unexpected, something meaningful. And though the path ahead was uncertain, one thing was clear. The bond between the rancher and the two sisters had grown deeper, and soon they would all face choices that would change their lives forever. The days that followed the visit from the sisters, people were filled with a new kind of quiet, one that carried both comfort and a hint of waiting. Caleb could feel a change in the air inside the cabin. It was not a bad change, just a new one. Tala and Naeli seemed more thoughtful, more aware of everything around them, as if they were preparing for something important. Each morning began the same way, with the soft glow of the fire warming the room and the sisters slowly rising from their blankets. Caleb made breakfast, and the sisters helped in small ways, even though he insisted they rest more. But neither Tala nor Naeli liked to sit idle. They felt grateful for the shelter Caleb had given them, and helping with simple tasks made them feel part of the home. One morning, Tala stirred the pot on the stove while Caleb cut pieces of bread. Naeli sat near them, sewing a loose patch on one of Caleb's coats. Her hands moved slowly and gracefully, taking her time to make each stitch neat and strong. "You don't have to repair that," Caleb said gently. Naeli lifted her eyes and offered a small smile. "It is the least I can do. You have done so much for us." Caleb didn't argue. He had learned that Naeli liked to express her gratitude quietly through actions rather than words. Her calm presence filled the cabin with peace, while Tala's liveliness brought laughter and brightness. Together, the sisters balanced the space in a way that made Caleb feel he was living a different kind of life, one filled with warmth he hadn't known he had been missing. After breakfast, they often spent time outside, enjoying the fresh air. Tala regained her strength quickly and took joy in walking longer distances. Naeli walked more slowly, taking in every detail of the land around them. Caleb found himself watching the two sisters from time to time, feeling a sense of pride at how strong they had become. One afternoon, while they walked near the fence, Tala suddenly stopped and turned to Caleb with a thoughtful expression. "Do you think your life will change when our people come back?" she asked gently. Caleb paused, a little surprised by the question. "I'm not sure," he replied honestly. "Things always change sooner or later." Tala took a slow breath. "Our people saw how you cared for us. They respect that." Caleb nodded. "I only did what felt right." Naeli stepped closer, her eyes calm and deep. "Sometimes doing what is right creates bonds that cannot be ignored." Caleb didn't know how to respond to that at first. There was something in their eyes, something warm, something hopeful, but he didn't fully understand it yet. They returned to the cabin, and Caleb spent the afternoon repairing a loose board on the porch. Tala sat nearby, humming softly as she watched him work. Naeli prepared tea inside, and the smell drifted through the open doorway, mixing with the crisp scent of winter. Later, when they all sat around the fire, Tala spoke again, her tone softer than usual. "Caleb, our people have traditions, ways of showing respect and gratitude." Caleb set down the wooden figure he was carving and looked at her carefully. "I understand." "There is a tradition," Tala continued, "that says when someone saves another's life, a deep connection forms. It can lead to important choices." Naeli added quietly, "Our elders value kindness more than anything. They believe people who show such kindness are meant to share strong bonds." Caleb's heart began to beat a little faster, though he didn't fully understand yet. "Are you saying your people expect something from me?" Tala shook her head gently. "Not expect. But they see you as someone worthy of trust." Naeli looked at Caleb with soft eyes. "And we have grown close to you." Caleb felt the warmth of the fire on his face, but he also felt another kind of warmth, one deeper, more emotional. He thought back to the days the sisters had spent in the cabin, to their laughter, their quiet strength, the way they filled every corner of the space with comfort. He cared for them deeply now, but he also knew that relationships between different cultures were complicated. He didn't want to hurt anyone, not the sisters, not their people, and not the community he lived near. "Tala, Naeli," he said softly, "I care about both of you very much, but I don't know what expectations your people might have." Tala leaned closer, her voice gentle. "They respect choice. They will not force anything." Naeli nodded. "They only want to see peace and understanding." Caleb felt relieved at that, but also more aware of how delicate the situation was becoming. He didn't want to make a decision that would hurt either sister. That night, when the sisters went to rest, Caleb sat by the fire alone. The flames danced, casting bright and shifting shadows across the wooden floor. He held the small wooden animal he had carved earlier and stared at it thoughtfully. He wondered what path the future might lead him down. He imagined the sisters returning to their people, smiling and safe. He imagined the cabin becoming quiet again, returning to the stillness he had always known. But another part of him, the part that had grown brighter each day, felt drawn to the idea of sharing life with them, of never returning to the lonely silence he once thought was normal. He didn't sleep much that night. The next day was clear and bright. The snow sparkled and the air carried a soft calmness. Caleb worked around the ranch while the sisters helped with light chores inside. By midday, Caleb noticed something in Naeli's expression, something calm but serious. "Is everything all right?" he asked gently. Naeli nodded. Yes, but there is something we must prepare for. Tala joined them, her face thoughtful. Our people will return soon. When they do, they will ask us what we want for our future. Caleb felt his heart tighten slightly. And what do you want? The sisters exchanged a glance, one filled with quiet understanding. Tala spoke first. We want our lives to be filled with peace, with kindness, with someone who cares. Naeli stepped closer to Caleb, her voice barely above a whisper. You have shown us all these things. Caleb felt his breath catch. Their words were gentle, but they carried great meaning. He didn't want to assume anything, yet the emotion in their voices told him they felt deeply connected to him. He took a slow, steady breath. I care about both of you, truly. But I don't want to make any choice that would cause pain. You won't, Tala said softly. Our hearts are strong, we respect each other. Naeli added, we only want honesty. Caleb looked between them, his heart filled with warmth and confusion at the same time. He cared for them, but he also understood he could not be the answer to both of their hopes. He wasn't someone who made choices lightly, especially not choices involving hearts and futures. Later that afternoon, the sound of distant footsteps came again through the snow. The sisters stepped outside with Caleb, watching as several members of their people approached. This time the group was larger, carrying supplies and warm blankets. They greeted the sisters warmly, their eyes filled with relief and gratitude. They looked at Caleb with respect, acknowledging everything he had done. The elders stepped forward and spoke with Naeli and Tala in quiet tones. Caleb watched from a respectful distance, unsure if he should feel hope or worry. After several minutes, Naeli walked back toward him. Her eyes were calm, steady, and filled with quiet warmth. They want to thank you properly, she said gently. Tala stepped beside her, smiling. They want to understand your heart. Caleb suddenly felt the weight of the moment resting on his shoulders. The elders approached him with kind faces. One of them spoke with slow, respectful gestures, and Naeli translated softly. They say your kindness has made a bond. They ask what your heart wants for the future. Caleb felt the world grow quieter around him. He looked at Tala's hopeful smile, Naeli's calm strength, and the peaceful trust in their eyes. He knew now that he had to be honest, not only for himself, but for the sisters as well. He took a breath and spoke slowly. I care for both of them, but my heart can only choose one path. Naeli and Tala watched him without fear, without pressure, only with patience. He continued, I will not make a choice today. I need to understand my heart fully. And I want to be sure that the choice I make brings peace to everyone. The elders nodded, showing understanding. Tala and Naeli also nodded, their expressions calm. There was no anger, no sadness, only acceptance that this was a decision worth taking time with. Caleb felt grateful for their patience. In that moment, he realized that the bond they shared was strong enough to handle uncertainty. The elders left the decision for another day and returned to their temporary camp nearby. The sisters stayed in the cabin for another night. They sat around the fire with Caleb, sharing quiet conversation. The soft glow of the flames reflected in their eyes, and though none of them spoke directly about the future, each felt it approaching slowly, like the gentle rise of dawn. Caleb knew the coming day would bring clarity. But for now, the warmth of the cabin, the soft crackle of the fire, and the peaceful presence of the sisters created a moment he wished could last just a little longer. The morning sun rose softly over the snow-covered land, turning the world into a quiet, glowing white. Caleb Morgan awoke early, as he always did, but today his thoughts were heavier than usual. The past weeks had been filled with warmth, laughter, and quiet connection, yet the decision he now faced weighed on his heart. The sisters Tala and Naeli had healed from the storm and grown strong. Their bond with each other was deep, and their trust in him had never faltered. Caleb felt honored, yet unsure of how to navigate the delicate moment ahead. He moved quietly around the cabin, preparing breakfast as he often did. Tala stirred early, her eyes bright as she looked out the window at the sparkling snow. Naeli followed slowly, careful, and graceful as she emerged from the blankets. Both sisters seemed aware of the unspoken tension in the air, yet they carried themselves with calm and understanding. Caleb placed a warm pot of tea and bread on the table. He gestured for them to sit. Today, he began, his voice soft but steady, we must speak honestly about the path ahead. Tala and Naeli exchanged a glance, gentle but serious, and nodded. The fire crackled between them, filling the room with a comforting sound. No one spoke for a moment, letting the quiet sink in. It was a quiet that carried meaning, a pause before a turning point. "I have come to care for both of you deeply," Caleb continued. "The time we've spent together, it has changed my life. You have brought warmth and joy to this cabin and to my heart. But I must be honest. My heart can only choose one path. I must consider carefully because I want my decision to bring peace and happiness to everyone involved." Tala shifted slightly, her eyes bright but calm. "We understand," she said softly. "We have both felt this bond, but we also know the heart can choose only one." Naeli reached for her sister's hand briefly, a gesture of love and understanding. "We have trust in you," she added. "We do not want to cause pain. We only ask honesty." Caleb felt a swell of gratitude. The sister's calm wisdom and patience surprised him. He had expected arguments, pressure, or conflict. Instead, he felt respect, understanding, and a quiet strength that filled the cabin. He took a slow breath, steadying his heart, and looked first at Tala. "Tala," he said softly, "your spirit is bright. You have energy, courage, and joy that touches everyone around you. You remind me of sunlight on snow, warm, lively, and beautiful. I have loved seeing your laughter, your hope, and your courage." Tala's eyes shimmered with emotion, but she remained steady. "Thank you," she whispered. "I have grown stronger because of your kindness." Caleb turned his gaze to Naeli. "And Naeli, your calm and steady heart has been a guide. You carry wisdom and patience that steadies everyone around you. Your presence is like a quiet river, always deep, always steady. I admire your strength and your gentleness, and I feel a connection that cannot be described in words alone." Naeli's lips curved into a soft, serene smile. "You honor us with your words," she said quietly. "We have only shared what our hearts feel." Caleb looked from one sister to the other, feeling the weight of the decision. He knew he must listen to his own heart and be true to the connection he felt. This choice was not about fear, convenience, or obligation. It was about love, trust, and respect. "I must follow my heart," Caleb said at last, "and it has spoken clearly. It has chosen Naeli." Tala's face did not fall, nor did her eyes show hurt. She nodded, a serene acceptance in her expression. "I understand," she said softly, "and I am happy for you both. I know the bond you share is true." Naeli reached out, taking Caleb's hand gently. "And I am grateful," she whispered. "Grateful for your honesty, for your care, and for this life we can share." Caleb felt a deep sense of peace wash over him. He held Naeli's hand, feeling the warmth and trust between them. And then he looked at Tala, whose calm and gentle expression carried no bitterness, only love and support. He felt a gratitude toward her that ran as deep as the river she resembled. Though she would not be by his side as a partner, she remained a dear and trusted friend. "I am grateful for you too, Tala," Caleb said, his voice steady. "You have brought light to these days and comfort to my heart. Your kindness will never be forgotten." Tala smiled warmly, and for a moment the room felt full of peace, acceptance, and quiet joy. The bond among the three of them remained strong, but it had taken on a new shape, one of honesty, respect, and enduring friendship. The days following the decision were filled with careful preparation. Caleb and Naeli worked together around the ranch, learning each other's habits and rhythms. They shared meals, stories, and moments of quiet companionship. Their connection deepened naturally, like two streams merging into one river. The cabin, once a shelter from a storm, became a home filled with laughter, warmth, and trust. Tala remained nearby, her presence a comforting one. She helped with chores, shared stories of her people, and offered guidance when needed. Her relationship with Caleb was no longer romantic, yet it remained meaningful. She and Naeli shared quiet smiles, understanding the bond they all had nurtured together. One bright afternoon, Naeli suggested they take a walk across the snow-covered fields. Caleb agreed, helping her along the uneven terrain. Tala joined them, staying close but giving space for the couple to walk side by side. The sun reflected off the snow, creating a sparkling, almost magical landscape. The air was crisp, yet their hearts felt warm. "You have done so much for us," Naeli said softly, breaking the gentle silence. "And you have brought more warmth into my life than you realize," Caleb replied. "I could not have imagined life like this before." They walked together, their steps in sync, sharing quiet words and thoughtful glances. Tala followed at a respectful distance, smiling when she saw them happy. Her presence was not a shadow, but a gentle light that added to the feeling of peace around them. The following weeks were a time of growing trust, care, and harmony. Caleb and Nayeli continued to build their life together, learning from each other's strengths. Caleb taught her about the ranch, the animals, and the ways of the land. Nayeli shared her knowledge of the world beyond the ranch, teaching Caleb patience, thoughtfulness, and the quiet strength of her people. Tala remained a constant companion, visiting the cabin often, sharing stories, helping with small chores, and joining in moments of laughter. Though she did not live inside the cabin permanently, her presence was a steady one, a bridge between their two worlds. She became a dear friend to Caleb and a beloved sister to Nayeli. One winter morning, the snow falling gently around the cabin, Caleb and Nayeli stood by the fire together, watching the flames dance. Nayeli leaned lightly on Caleb's shoulder. "I never expected life to change like this," she said softly. "Neither did I," Caleb admitted. "But sometimes life surprises us in the best ways." She smiled, warmth spreading through her eyes. "I am happy." "So am I," Caleb replied. Their hands met and held naturally, a bond forged not only through circumstance but through kindness, understanding, and shared experience. The cabin, the snow, and the quiet land had witnessed the growth of their connection, a love built slowly, carefully, and respectfully. Outside, Tala was busy arranging blankets in the barn, preparing the animals for the day. When she noticed Caleb and Nayeli by the window, she paused for a moment and smiled. Her heart was at peace, knowing that both sisters were safe, loved, and happy. Her own role, though different, remained important and cherished. She had become a gentle guardian of the bond they all shared. As winter gradually shifted toward spring, the snow began to melt, revealing green patches of grass and the first signs of new life. The days grew longer, and the sun became warmer. Caleb, Nayeli, and Tala continued their quiet routines, each finding joy in simple moments, feeding the animals, tending the land, sharing meals, and speaking softly by the fire at night. Their lives had intertwined in ways none of them could have imagined. From the storm that brought them together to the choices that shaped their paths, each moment had strengthened their connections, teaching them trust, patience, and the power of kindness. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the sky glowed pink and gold, Caleb, Nayeli, and Tala stood together outside the cabin. The snow had mostly melted, leaving trails of green grass beneath their feet. They looked at the land that had been both challenge and shelter, home and heart. Caleb turned to the sisters. "I am grateful for both of you," he said softly. "You have brought more than warmth and joy, you have changed my life." Tala and Nayeli smiled, their hands brushing briefly in a gesture of unity and understanding. "And we are grateful for you," Nayeli replied. "You showed us kindness, care, and patience. Our hearts will always remember that." Tala nodded, her voice gentle. "And though life may take us different ways sometimes, we are bound by trust and love. That will never change." Caleb felt a deep peace. The world outside might have challenges, storms, and uncertainty, but inside this little cabin, hearts had found a way to connect, respect, and support each other. The journey that had begun with snow and fear had blossomed into warmth, love, and understanding. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the cabin and the snow-dusted fields, Caleb, Nayeli, and Tala stood together in quiet harmony. Their lives had changed forever, yet in the gentlest, most meaningful way. They had faced fear, uncertainty, and difficult choices, and had come together with hearts full of trust, compassion, and hope. And in that moment, the world felt full of promise, filled with the quiet certainty that kindness, honesty, and love could create bonds that would last forever.